Interview, movie magic, mumbo jumbo, and some amazing special effects. We go behind the scenes and talk to the stars of a major new all-action adventure. Extended look at the making of The Mummy.
Where did you get this?
On a dig down in Thebes.
Jonathan, I think you found something.
There is an ancient legend of a place known as the City of the Dead.
Call it the doorway to hell.
Where the earliest pharaohs were said to have hidden the wealth of Egypt.
Are we going into battle?
There's something out there. Something underneath that sand.
They came to uncover its secrets.
Mummies, my good son. This is where they made the mummies.
They sought to unlock its treasures.
And then there was light.
Oh, boy.
What they did
Oh my God.
It does exist.
I think this may be the Book of the Dead.
was unleash a force unlike any the world has ever known.
You have unleashed the creature that we have feared for more than 3,000 years.
He will regenerate and no longer be the undead.
We are in serious trouble.
In the next half hour, journey with us behind the scenes on the new epic adventure from Universal Pictures. Join us for an exploration, filming in the Sahara Desert, and the creation of cutting-edge special effects. Then ride with us on rip-roaring stunts and action sequences, and explore with us the mysteries of the mummy in ancient Egypt and in Hollywood, as we unwrap the making of the mummy.
It's an action-adventure romance with lots of humor, lots of scares.
You swim!
If the occasion calls for it!
Trust me! It calls for it!
It had all the earmarkings of an action and adventure, and a romance, and a very large film.
I thought it was just really perfect romantic adventure. O'Connell.
The special effects are the best of the best. They're going to help us create ancient Egypt of 3,000 years ago, Cairo of the 1920s, and then they're going to help us create the magic of the mummy.
Mummies first captured Hollywood's imagination in the early 1930s.
The great original Mummy was made in 1932, and it's really been fun to bring that character back to Universal Studios.
It was the one horror movie as a kid that scared the hell out of me. All the other ones, like Frankenstein, he was kind of tragic and sad, and Dracula was sexy and kind of cool. But the only one that really scared the hell out of me was the Mummy. In the original, Boris Karloff, he's only the mummy for the first scene.
Looks as though he died in some sensationally unpleasant manner.
Contorted muscles show that he struggled in the bandages.
Buried alive.
In the rest of the movie, he's Boris Karloff with like kind of little wrinkles.
You have studied our ancient art, and you know that you cannot harm me. You also know that you must return that scroll to me or die.
If I could get my hands on you, I'd break your dried flesh to pieces.
I probably saw it when I was like 8 years old on the television in black and white, and I've never forgotten it.
To get it, you will kill. Kill wherever you find the fluid.
The Mummy's success spawned numerous sequels and different series. People want to believe in a life after death situation, and The Mummy, what better movie could exemplify that? And people never got sick of The Mummy, which is why they kept making them over and over and over again.
The Mummy is a source of enduring fascination because it actually achieved what the Egyptians set out for it to do. The mummy survives death. So when a body survives beyond the person's spirit, that's a very spooky thing for us.
In the original film, when you first see the mummy's hand come into the frame, you know, the people jumped when they saw that. The scariest part, I think, is watching that little bandage just sort of trail off.
And I love the original Mummy, and I just thought, yeah, but now to do it over again, you have to do something different. You have to make it more exciting and more adventurous, bigger.
Will you just pay the man?
The Mummy brings together a tinderbox of characters, much like those drawn to Egypt in the 1920s.
In the 1920s, Cairo is filled with a great variety of people, everyone from treasure seekers to would-be archaeologists, and people often cross the line from one to another.
O'Connell, played by Brendan Fraser, is a captain of the French Foreign Legion. He's the kind of guy who goes into fights face first.
Rick's a thrill seeker. He has a death wish in some ways, I think.
Come on, let's get out of here! Whoa!
Evelyn, played by Rachel Weisz, she's sort of the brains of the outfit.
I'm a librarian. I'm trained in Egyptology and archaeology. She's not been allowed to go on any archaeological digs. I think she suffers because she's a woman. She's sort of wide-eyed and innocent in some sense because she hasn't really experienced much of life. She's a bookworm.
Who put you in charge? O'Connell, what do you think you are doing? Jonathan! O'Connell!
Sorry, Ava, he's a bit
Coward
tall.
you are! O'Connell, you are not leaving me in here!
I don't think I've ever seen a man like that in my life, you know. In the library, certainly never met anyone like that before.
Let's go, Jonathan.
Oh, well, I thought I could just stay at the fort and reconnoiter.
Now!
Yeah, right. We're just going to rescue the Egyptologist. My character's a bit of a loser, really. He's sort of hanging around in Egypt and Cairo. They're going off trying to have a little love story. And I'm this stray dog that's following them around.
You all right?
Well, not sure. What a surprise! My good friend, you're alive!
Well, if it ain't my little buddy Benny.
Benny sort of pops in and pops out.
I think I'll kill you.
Think of my children.
You don't have any children.
Someday I might.
So I sort of ruin the mood of every scene I enter.
The story of the Mummy begins when Rick O'Connell desperately needs to get out of prison.
I will give you £100 to save this man's life.
Madame, I would pay £100 just to see him hang.
And a young woman desperately needs some information.
You were actually at Hamunaptra.
Yeah, I was there.
Could you tell me how to get there?
You want to know?
Yes.
Then get me the hell out of here.
We're going to cruise down the River Nile, try our luck at finding fame and fortune.
Personally, I think he's filthy, rude, a complete scoundrel. I don't like him one bit.
Anyone I know? I think they realize early on they have feelings for one another, but aren't likely to let on that they do.
By the way, why did you kiss me?
No, I was about to be hanged. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Oh.
What?
They work well together on this adventure. It's her brains and his brawn. Slowly but surely, they become a partnership.
Awfully tempting, wasn't it?
And then a romance develops.
Awfully.
But complications arise when they enter a forbidden tomb and unlock its secrets.
Imhotep is one of Pharaoh's priests. He was mummified without being protected by all the sacred spells and things that could protect you and going into the afterlife. It's actually my character who raises the mummy.
It speaks of the night and of the day.
The Mummy is very strong, very powerful. He goes through different stages and becomes an extremely dangerous and extremely handsome man.
You got any bright ideas?
I'm thinking.
And matters go from bad to worse when Imhotep, the Mummy, needs a woman to fulfill his destiny.
Hey! Get your ugly face off of her!
He wants to resurrect his lover, and in order to resurrect her, he needs a sacrifice. So he chooses me as the sacrifice.
The filmmakers chose to shoot in Morocco in the difficult conditions of the Sahara Desert to capture the ambience and allure of ancient Egypt.
There's something about the desert that says humans go away. And I think there is a glamour of, you know, adventuring across the desert. And it is beautiful, but it's harsh.
In the last week, it was 145 degrees. It was 130 degrees by 8:30 in the morning. You have to physically sit in the shade.
I kind of felt like it would be a great holiday, you know, oh, Morocco, and it'll be fantastic, bit of sunshine, lie by the pool occasionally. But it was really hot out there, it was unremitting, the winds were harsh, the sun was harsh, there was the snakes and the scorpions, not to mention being out in the desert in the middle of the night.
Designing the look of ancient Egypt and Cairo in the 1920s challenged the filmmakers. They spent 16 weeks in the oppressive heat building the lost city of Hamunaptra.
When Napoleon invaded Egypt, he had architects and illustrators do this wonderful book, which became our sort of Bible, and we use a lot of elements and decorative details from the book. And it was really like a giant jigsaw, putting all these elements together to make it work for the script.
Oh my God, we're back.
Once I'd found the location, we did a whole survey of the volcano, so we had all the dimensions and the heights. Made a model of scale columns and bases and statues, and then really played about with those and planned out how it would work for the action and how to make the set look best. At the end of the script, the whole city is supposed to sink back into the desert, back into the volcano, so several of the sets are built by special effects to fall down and to collapse. Ready! So it's a huge combination of special effects and construction.
It would have been very easy just to have all the columns coming over in one piece. But we looked at various footage and we tried to recreate that in making all the columns come down in segments and breaking up on the way down.
If you're here and it's still falling, you just want to hug this edge.
We had to run through a path that was sort of defined by Simon Crane, the stunt coordinator, while columns and dust and pillars and rocks all fell around us. So we were told if you run in this exact path, you won't get thumped by falling rocks.
Go, go, go!
The ground collapsing sequence, it took a lot of work, a lot of metal work underneath there, which, you know, we could trigger at whatever speed we liked to obviously chase them along. And a fair bit of good timing, keeping up with the actors and making sure they didn't actually fall down the hole. Underneath the temple, as it were, and we've got all the shots of all the ceilings and walls coming down there and all the dust.
There weren't elaborate booby traps of the kind you often see in Hollywood movies, but the Egyptians were very concerned to do what they could to protect their tombs. And gigantic measures, like huge stone blocks that would drop into place, sealing off passages, were really something that the pharaohs did build into the tombs.
To create the mummy in all his forms and his army, the filmmakers combined elaborate computer-generated effects with extensive live-action work.
I produce all the actual physical creature effects that appear actually on set. We'd find the thinnest possible performers we could, and we would sculpt directly onto them and create lycra-based foam latex suits that would hopefully move in as realistic way as possible.
Who the hell are these guys?
The innovation of industrial light and magic added another dimension to the film's eye-catching effects.
We shot the movie with absolutely no completed representation of the mummy. It is a long, really interesting, but suspenseful process.
The crew from ILM have been great. Whenever we needed some sort of inspiration, they'd hold up a photograph of what the mummy will look like in stage 1, 2, 3 of decomposition.
The
mummy starts out as a walking animated corpse, and then as he proceeds to do away with the poor unfortunate people who opened his tomb, he regenerates more and more, changes into different monsters that are more and more human until finally he is the actor Arnold Vosloo. And there's stages where he's part computer graphics, part live action. We'd make sure that our mummy walks and acts just like Arnold Vosloo. With the scarabs, we did a combination of being able to direct things specifically using our sort of traditional skills as keyframe animators. And then the computer can control large groups of them to follow some sort of general direction and have them collide with the ground and crawl over each other and things like that. What we've done here is a lot of the practical effects. That we will incorporate into this huge, scary face. We can take all the action and adventure that's going on with Brendan Fraser's performance, combine it with the special effects work that the guys here on the set are doing, and then we gloss it with a really beautiful computer graphics deal at the end, and you have a shot that incorporates both action and really great effects.
The special effects were closely matched with well-designed stunt work in several scenes of the film.
What we're actually practicing here is where Benny and Evelyn get ejected from the sandstorm. Now, the sandstorm's going to be CGI, so we'll see that on one side of the frame. We're using a piece of equipment called the Russian swing. If you make a mistake on the Russian swing, it's very unforgiving. Here, I want them to travel through the air approximately 40 feet before they hit the sand and then start to roll. The specialised horse stunt people that I use, I bring them from all over the world. We had a lot of Spanish there, Hungarian, South African. I had a big stunt team out there of approximately 40 people.
It was by far and away the largest filmmaking sequence I think I've been involved in to date, and very exciting, a bit risky, a little frightening. Those were real charging horsemen coming at us. Blank gunfire, but all the same, there were probably 200 or 300 people working in the shop.
Basically, all the artists need to be able to ride the camels pretty well because they're involved in a camel race. It's quite exciting. It's funny, they can twist and turn and try and take a chunk out of you when you're not expecting it.
In their natural habitat, they're extraordinary. And to then get the opportunity of like riding them through the desert at pretty much full pelt was a really, really exhilarating experience. Although it does feel a little bit like riding something with 3 legs and a wheel. Its head's pretty bendy. It's like riding a big pantomime horse, as I say, with a wheel at one end, a skateboard at the other, and a snake out front. It can turn around and look at you. But it was good. It was really quite fun.
Trying to eat the bottle? I don't think the camel knows I'm on its back. It knows Brendan Fraser is me. I think there's a large fly on my back. And if I can get him off it.
Hold on, Benny!
Now that serves you right.
Costume designer John Bloomfield had the challenging task of capturing the dress styles of both ancient Egypt and Cairo in the 1920s.
The interesting thing for me about this project is the fact that it works on so many levels. Just the fact of being in the Sahara Desert and doing an Egyptian full-on Pharaoh movie, and then having the Tuareg Arabs and having the French Foreign Legion, the whole thing is fantastic.
Are you sure we can find the secret compartment thing?
With Brendan Fraser, I was going for a very striking look, slightly laid back, but very heroic.
Jonathan, you stole it from a drunk at the local Casbah.
Hector's pocket, actually, so I don't think
Jonathan,
it's very
will you
good.
stop being so ridiculous. Now,
With John Hannah, I was going for the upper-class cad. He's a quick-thinking wheeler-dealer, but slightly more contrived. With Rachel Weisz, I went for extremes. She starts off as the librarian, looking quite sedate, and then does the classic thing, takes her glasses off and lets her hair down. The mummy's an Egyptian priest, and I wanted to show this in both periods of the movie. He always keeps the same character, even as a lover, a priest, a mummy, and a avenging spirit. And so the disguise he wears, for example, in the modern part of the film, still reflects his ancient robes.
I think The Mummy has wide appeal. It's a great deal of fun. It is scary in the best of ways.
if it's just got stuff coming at you, one thing after another, if it's not dust storms, it's locusts, or it's scarabs, or it's a really gross-looking desiccated mummy, or it's a whole army of mummies chasing after somebody.
It's a reinvention of a classic character.
What? This just keeps getting better and better.
Universal Pictures invites you to experience the adventure.
It appears he's already chosen his human sacrifice.
That will live forever.
He turns me into a mummy, you're the first one I'm coming after.